Over the past few months, I've been building my dream garden, and today I'm going to showcase it off, tell you a little bit about the pros, the cons of it, and why I decided to go with this setup. So the first thing we're going to talk about is going to be the foundation for my garden. And what I decided to go with is a metal rack. And the reason for doing so is because it is essentially indestructible. I'm a clumsy person, and when I'm doing gardening work, if I accidentally bump into it, if I'm gardening and I accidentally stub my toe into it or something like that, I need to know that this whole thing isn't going to come crashing down on me. So it's really nice that, this provides a sense of stability for my garden. Another thing I love is the industrial look that it gives off. I think it complements the room really well. I love the style of it. It's a good buy, and I'm happy that I went with it because it's going to outlive me. But besides looking really good, what the metal shelf does is it provides 4 times the space that a traditional single plane surface would provide in gardening. The second thing we're going to talk about is going to be the LED lights. This garden is indoors. It's located in my sunroom, and the lights coming in through the windows is not going to be enough to allow the plants to grow properly. So what I had to do is I had to supplement LED lights into my garden. These LED lights are 5,000 Kelvin spectrum. They give off a nice white hue that's really nice for admiring the plants, looking for malnutrition, disease, pest. The total light watt consumption for my garden is about 400 watts. It's about 100 watts per shelf. Total, the system runs up probably about around 450 to 500 because I do have air pumps, water pumps, and a fan off to the side. These LED lights run for about 12 hours a day. All right, another aspect of the garden is going to be the growing trays. These are 4 feet by 2 feet wide, and they're essentially a food grade plastic. And what they do is they provide a sense of organization that allows the plants to fit in there really nice, and it collects excess dirt and excess water that would normally just shake off and fall onto my ground. It keeps everything nice and clean and organized. What I have here are my square pots, and I absolutely love these square pots. I don't think I'm gonna ever go back to round pots. And the reason why I love the square pots over round pots is because these optimize space. If they were circular, I wouldn't get as much space, but because they're square, they fit flush. And it allows me to maximize my garden. So I've done the math, and I'm able to fit 36 of these pots in each shelf. I have 4 shelves, so that's a total of 144 pots. I can always be growing 144 plants in this system. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing to be able to grow that many plants in such a tight space. We're going to go over a few pros for this garden. The first pro is it saves 4 times the square footage in comparison to traditional gardening. The second pro to this system is the maintenance and organization. Because all the plants are confined to one location, gardening tasks such as irrigation, pruning, pest management, it's all going to be confined to one spot. The third pro is going to be minimal pest. Because this garden is located indoors, the only pests that I've seen have been fungus gnats. They're not shown in abundance, they're very minimal, and I don't foresee any pests because of the location of the garden. Another pro is going to be the predictable growth. These lights are on 12 hours a day and they're set on a timer, so I can expect consistent growth all year round. Whereas if it was outdoors, there are certain days where it's just pouring rain, beating up the plants. You can deal with pests, you can deal with cloudy days. So because the system has consistent light, the growth is pretty consistent. Another pro is going to be this garden's portability. Whether or not you're living in a house or in an apartment, this is just one metal rack. You can squeeze this in a lot of areas. You don't need a lot of space for it. The fact that I can go ahead and pick this up if my lease ends or something in a year's time, as opposed to, an outside garden, it's really, really nice to have that capability. And one of the last pros is going to be its location. When you're cooking and a recipe calls for something, it's nice to just be able to take a few steps into your sunroom, pluck something that you need, as opposed to have to strap on some shoes, go out into the garden, especially if it's a bad, gloomy day. Now we're going to talk about some of the cons for this garden. This garden only fits small plants. However, this system is still amazing because you can go ahead and start those larger plants in this system, and then once they grow to about a half a foot, you can then transplant them outside and they'll have a much higher success rate of growing to maturity than if you just put a seedling, or just if you just put a seed in the ground outside. Now, another con is going to be the increase in my electric bill. All these lights are running 12 hours a day. It's about 400 watts. All of that increases my electric bill, so I have no choice but to plant smart in order to offset that cost. In this channel, I'm going to be doing some gardening experiments. I'm going to be setting realistic goals, and I'm going to be acting as a guide to the garden world.